Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 172. Today we're going to look at Psalm 139. We've been pursuing this idea from Genesis chapter 44, and there a father's bond to his child, which is supposed to be permanent and strong, is broken. And we looked at that breaking of the bond in our world through the separation of parents and children through illness or death, or maybe someone died in childbirth. And then yesterday we looked at the separation of the bond between a child and a parent through abortion. So today let's follow up and let's even more fundamentally ask, what's special about children in the womb? And why might there be such a strong bond there in the first place? So to answer that, let's turn to Psalm 139 and see what the Bible says about it. I'm going to start in verse number 1. It's a Psalm of David. And he starts, "O Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways." Let me jump down to verse 13 now. "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them." All right, so let me just summarize this in a couple ways. We're under the purview of God from the womb, and I'm saying his eyes are there. I'm going to say his eyes are there, his hands are there, and a few other things. So first of all, his eyes are there. He's acquainted with all my ways. There's no unseen with the Lord, no secret thoughts, no secret sins. All is before him. Second point is that we are created and made and woven. And by that, I mean his hands are there. So we see the Lord's eyes in the womb. We see the Lord's hands in the womb. He's the author of life, which is to say, he's the author of me. I am an authored being. God is the former, the maker, the knitter of humans. It's God's activity and the value of that activity is putting his image there that extends all the way into the womb. Before birth, it starts when the knitting starts, well before birth. We'll talk about that in a second here. Now, I've had the opportunity to walk through a couple of pregnancies recently, and the fun thing about it is if you get this app on your phone, you can find out how big the little baby is and what kind of medical construction highlight is happening, what's happening with the spinal cord, or the day that they blink, or something like that. And each day they tell you how big the little one is, size of a grape, size of a blueberry, whatever. And you get this kind of day by day or week by week description of this amazing process of being knit together. All right, so that's God's hands there. So his eyes there, he sees this, and his hands there, he does this. Just one point is we get a soul. So what's a soul? It's that permanent living. Your soul is going to live forever. It's temporarily embodied in a physical place here. It's this central element that contains one's spirit and will and knowledge, experience, emotion, understanding, and decision-making. It's the part that's either going to be separated from him forever or joined with him together. So by us being ensouled, I find that the Lord's character is there. Now, this was one of the most important things that I noticed this morning is what we count as a birthday is actually late in the game. So when God celebrates your birthday, he doesn't celebrate it on the day that you were born. So he gets out the cake and the candles at some date way, way, way before that. 9 months before that, probably. It's not the day you came out of the body of your mother. That's when we count the days. But we have days that are formed from God before the days that are counted by man. Way before that. So his timing is there. So your days started before we typically count them, and the Lord starts the clock of our days before you're born. So your days are formed before you were fully formed. So what happens in the womb isn't suddenly a product, this completed product, but this God ordained process that he starts, and he notes the beginning of it earlier. And obviously this is way, way above our pay grade. So it's God's handiwork, his weaving. And then as the psalm closes, let's rejoin it to point to our response in the right direction. So here, verse 17. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. So there we see the Lord's heart is there. So what happens in the womb is valuable, and I should value what you have made valuable. So I care about what you think, Lord, on this matter and all matters. So help me to tune my thoughts to correlate better with your thoughts, rather than insist that your thoughts correlate with my thoughts. So David invites just so courageously the perusal of the Lord at the end of the Psalm 139. Lord, examine me to see if I've got this right. So listen to what he says, verse 23. Search me, O God, know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So my question as we leave is, when we glance into the womb, do we find the Lord's eyes there? Do we find his hands? Do we find his valuing in his heart? Do we find his timing? And do we find his character displayed there? So let's ask if what we believe about what happens in the womb is consistent with what God has said in just one psalm alone, 139. So perhaps my thoughts on this matter are grievous to you, Lord. Like David, let's have the guts to ask, search me and see, try me. It's the bravest of all prayers. Then, if so, help me to see where I am wrong. And if so, lead me in the right direction. Thanks for listening.